Welcome to our new segment of the K&D podcast series called the K&D Extras. Each week, either myself or David will be carrying out a solo episode where we pick an album for ourselves that we're familiar with, we turn the mic on, and we talk our shit. Alongside our regular exchanges every Tuesday, we will be dropping these extra episodes every Thursday. As usual, we appreciate you as a listener, and you can continue to show your support by following us on Twitter and Instagram at the K&D Exchange and subscribing to us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome back to the K&D Extra, the show where we bring you solo reviews on a week-by-week basis. Just to kind of, broaden the horizon of the podcast, I guess. This is episode 3, and as you can imagine from the title of this podcast, we are covering Red Hot Chili Peppers' Californication. It was released apparently on the 7th of June 1999, and my goodness, I thought it was younger than that, but I do remember this. I remember the Californication song video on MTV, and just it being so dreamy and kind of nice and spacious and quite a good song. And it was just so cool because the one thing that struck me about the Chili's wasn't the amazing riff like bass and guitar, but it was actually Anthony Kiedis' hair. I'd never seen anything like it, and that for me is my favorite sort of version of the Chili Peppers. It's just something that will stick with me forever, and it's so vivid and so awesome. But yeah, that began my long time love affair with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So I remember when I went off to uni in 2002, I went deep into Red Hot Chili Peppers. So, One Hot Minute, what was the other album? Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and even their earlier ones that they did in the late 80s, with songs like Skinny Sweaty Man on there, and just seeing how they matured into this really, really good band. And I do think that this is the I don't know, is it the crest of the wave for them? For me, from a creative standpoint, these guys sort of went off, because after this album was Stadium Arcadium, I believe, and I really didn't vibe with that at all. Or was it By the Way? It was By the Way and then Stadium Arcadium, pardon me. But the albums beforehand showed progression, whereas they just kind of got stuck after this album, for me personally. But yeah, without further ado, I mean, I'm just going to get into it. The one thing that I'll always think of when it comes to this album is the opening, Around the World. Now, I used to be I still am a bass player, but I started off teaching myself how to play bass, and this bass line just blew me away. It just comes in as this, just like, hey, pay attention to me. And the way that he plays the riff is very, very, it's almost lead guitar-y, it's so in your face, and he's got the fuzz just turned up to infinity, and it's just so aggressive in the way that he plays it, and the opening riff is just amazing. You got Anthony Kiedis coming in with the high-pitched scream, and Chad the drummer just coming in with this awesome percussive, almost this bombastic barrage of cymbals and snares in your face, and it's just this whole amazing opening, and then the bass cuts out, and then you get this simple guitar riff, and then you get this cool kind of Anthony Kiedis rap, all around the world we can make time, romping and stomping because I'm in my prime, and it's like, well, he's nearly 40 at that point, and he's saying that he's in his prime, but Anthony Kiedis is so impressive on this song, for me anyway, and also the video is just so abstract. You know, they're dancing in that weird stage and with the weird cube thing, and then they're playing all around it. Very strange. And then they've got the bit where they're sort of fading in and out of each other, which is really, really cool. I think System of a Down did that afterwards on Toxicity. No, not Toxicity. What's the song? Angels Deserve to Die. Wake up. Anyway, yeah, it's a very, very cool opening tune. And that is one song that I learnt bass to, and I will never forget this song. I can play it even now to this day very, very well, to a high degree. Like, what an opener. The next one is Parallel Universe. This is kind of like a harkening back to Jimi Hendrix. There are some real Jimi Hendrix influences throughout this album, and this is one that always reminds me of it. It reminds me of The Colour Purple. I don't know why. Again, not one of my favourite tunes on this album, but it's okay. It's kind of fantastical in its production, and it's very, very, it's very nice, It's very nice, but it's a real weird departure, because when you come back from All Around the World and all that craziness, and it's like Parallel Universe, it's very much a shift in tone immediately from the album, and then that shift in tone continues with the next song, which is Scar Tissue, which is, well, I mean, if you haven't heard it, where have you been? You must have been living under a rock. Just listen to it. It's driving along on a summer's evening. It's that kind of West Coast kind of. You could imagine seeing the sea on one hand, on one side, and then you just driving in the other. You've got your loved ones in the car with you, and it's just nice. Wind ruffling through your hair. What a nice song. I mean, it's top drawer. Track number 4, The Other Side. Meet Me on the Other Side. I mean, not really sure. I didn't actually get how this played into the album until this time. So, how do I put it into words? It's basically, I'm noticing the song titles this time round. So, Scar Tissue very much it sort of connotes this feeling of self-harm. You've got the scars from that. I don't know why I get that sort of feeling. It's not like scar tissue from wounds that are inflicted by other people or life or anything like that. It always stuck to me as a self-inflicted scar tissue. And then when you've got the other side, it's kind of like, hang on, you saying that as a result of the scar tissues and the self-wounding, you're going on the other side of life, death, the afterlife almost. It's this weird kind of feeling that I got when I listened to it this time. And that is as a result of, doing this podcast, I think. The way that I consume music, and I keep telling KD this, the way that I consume music is totally different to how I used to. It's like this podcast has ruined me, because I don't enjoy anything as much, like, to the fullest, because I'm too busy analysing, what do the song titles mean, and what does the order of the album entail, like what is it trying to tell me, what are they trying to tell me, and it's just very much now I'm looking granularly into everything that I used to love, and I used to love this with Carefree Abandon. It's one of my favourite albums from my youth. But yeah, the next song is Get On Top, and right away you've got the wah coming in with the guitar, and the bass line is beautiful. I mean, it's so much is going on with that. Flea is slapping and he's also playing at the same time. And I can kind of do that technique, but it's really, really hard to do so. So we slap in the top string, the E string, and then he's playing with his fingers at the same time. He's playing the D string, and it's so hard to do. But when you look at him do it, it's like almost nothing. His technique is beyond measure. And as an aspiring bassist, I used to listen to this all the time. And I used to try and get the timings down and everything like that. But you know what I mean? Flea is just one of a kind. And it's such a simple riff as well. It's so simple, but it's so difficult to execute that, he hides notes behind the snare. there are things going on the whole time, and then the Anthony Kiedis over top shouting, get on top, and it's pretty cool. Like, he's not my favorite singer in the whole world, but I'll get to that further on down the line. The one thing that always strikes me about this album is the dynamism, and I think that there's no better example of the dynamism than the middle eight of this song, in the way that Flea starts then, instead of like slapping and finger picking, what he does is popping and slapping, but really, really nicely and really, really melodically in the middle eight bit. And then you've got John Frusciante's guitars just sort of wailing over the top, and he's got delay effects and things like that to sort of broaden out the horizon of the song, the scope of the song. And it's just really nice to listen to it. And then when it's over and it comes back with the main riff with the wah in the guitar, it's just such a nice sort of landing back into, oh, right, okay, cool, here we are back again. What a fantastic song. I mean, this is one of my favorites. And also a little note as well is at the end, I absolutely love the fact that whole riff, the guitar riff, it's sort of left on its own, and Flea's doing his own thing. But at the end, Flea joins in with that guitar riff with his wah pedal and the bass, and it just sounds so cool. It's just such a nice little 4 bars at the end, and Flea and John Frusciante are playing together this cool kind of concept music. I just think that it's a fantastic way of ending that song. And then it's that effervescent ending, and then you get that kind of lower energy, that sort of more subdued tone of Californication coming in for the next song. And it's one of my favorite Chili Peppers songs that they've ever done. I will not hear a bad word against it. And again, if you haven't heard it, just listen to it. It's really cool. There's some quite prophetic things that are said in there. And there's also some kind of controversial things as well. Like, one of my favorites is always, and it always stuck in my head, is space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. And I just love that because did we go to the moon? Really? Did humans go to the moon? Anyway, that is a separate tangent. But anyway, there's a lot of imagery in Californication, and I really, really do like it. There's plenty more that I could probably say about the song, but it's kind of one of those that speaks for itself. And this is where I like Anthony Kiedis, this kind of range, and I suppose with All Around the World as well. Those are the two kind of songs that I really particularly enjoy him in, where he can kind of like bark at you and kind of do his kind of weird Anthony Kiedis rap, or when he's like singing like over the top of Californication. These are the two sort of iterations that you see more predominantly over this album, but in other ones he kind of takes on like additional, in other albums he takes on different sort of personas, and I don't think it lands as well, or maybe his voice isn't that great. Maybe it wasn't great to start off with. I'm not sure, but there is a bit of a disconnect that I have with Anthony Kiedis. Anyway, I was all about the music when I was younger. I think that he's aight, but he's very, very charismatic. Now, the song after Californication is easily one of my favorite Chili Peppers songs. Again, it's just such a weird. It's kind of like a hoedown kind of song. It's almost like a song that you'd hear at I don't know, like in a Western, but not quite a Western. Like Dukes of Hazzard or like Knight Rider or something like that. Something made in the 80s. I could just imagine that closing a show. But I don't really like the album version of this song. I think it's too slow. I love how they play it live, and from many times you look at them live playing this on, say, YouTube, and the energy is better. It's a song that's way better, faster, not too much faster, but a little bit more faster. There's a hell of a lot of energy, especially deriving from Flea on this one. I really think he carries it. And I do like John Frusciante's guitar on this one, because it's also very much like Last Frontier kind of. I don't know. I get this kind of Western vibe, but a modern day Western thing. I don't know if any of you have seen that film with Chris Pine in it, and it's called Hell or High Water. it's basically a heist film. It's a western, but it's set in like modern day, and I think it's a fantastic movie. I could see this song kind of being in there, with some of the antics that they get up to, but maybe it would add too much levity to a kind of a grittier film. Um, but it's just one of those, man. This song it's good, but it is way better live. And then I've always found this shift in the album very, very weird. Like, why would you follow up Easily, which is upbeat and up tempo, with Porcelain, which is kind of, maybe it's a palate cleanser on the album. I'm not too sure. It's I never found that I particularly enjoyed this song. It was okay, but I never really saw the point in it, especially with Summertime or Emmett Ramus coming in after that as track number 9. This song is warmth and summer. It's really, really weird. Like, I remember the first time I heard it, you've just got that, again, that wailing sort of monotonous guitar, with, I think it's feeding back in some parts, but it's just this really sort of, it presents this very desolate kind of feel, again, like deserty, hot kind of feel, and the way that the bass comes in, and the riff is just, it's so simple, but it's so heavy. The bass effect is so heavy, it's so low, and it's just an amazing song. It's so simple. They play, maybe between them, like John Frusciante and Flea, maybe 4 or 5 notes. But it's just so, it's so all encompassing. It is just an amazing song. I mean, I do love the chorus when Kiedis comes in and he's singing London in the summertime. What can be better than an English girl and an American man? And you're like, well, he's all about the old sex. So that's a little, reference there. But it's very, very cool. This one is, what, again, on a very standout album, this is one of those tracks that stands out to me just because of its heat. But that could be the power of suggestion, right? I just don't know. Who knows? Because it's called Summertime. Maybe that's part and parcel of why I get this warm kind of warmth when I listen to it. But it's not that kind of pleasant warmth where you're on a beach under a palm tree. You've got a reef and waves in front of you. This is kind of that, I'm stuck in the middle of the desert and I'm thinking back to like better times and I'm stuck out here. It's kind of that arid desolation, that arid, isolation. That's the word. It's, yeah, wow. I love this song. I like Dirt. Meh. It's okay. It's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit silly. It's one of those silly songs. I don't really get it why it's on the album. Maybe that's his sexual preference. Maybe he likes like dirty stuff. I mean, he does strike me as a very, very strange, charismatic man. I don't know. I always switched off at this song because I was like, meh, it's okay. I do like the bass line in it. It's pretty, it's kind of like, loungy, Latino-y. It's kind of got that Latino vibe to it, but it doesn't really do anything for me. Again, simple song, but it's, yeah, meh. I don't know why it's on the album personally. And then it leads into what I think is a fantastic song, which is This Velvet Glove. I don't necessarily think that Anthony Kiedis is great on this song particularly, but it's the music. It's the music that gets me. And maybe I'm being a bit unfair on Anthony Kiedis because it wouldn't be perfect without him, I guess. I do like there are some really sort of positive things, when he says, John says to live above hell and my will is well. John Frusciante is one of those guys that has gone through the mill, I think, with drug and alcohol addiction. He's heroin addiction as well, especially early on in his life. And he really, really had a rough time. And so I do like the fact that Anthony Kiedis is referencing his friend, saying John says to live above hell. Like, you don't have to put yourself through everything. And I do like the sentiment of it. This Velvet Glove, though, again, sexual connotations, right? If your loved one, gives you a reach around with a velvet glove, I'm sure I'm sure it'd feel very, very nice. Or if, you're giving your loved one of those. Anyway, I'm way off in the weeds. But I do think that the velvet glove is kind of like the velvet glove of recovery. Like it's this sort of I don't know, it's about dealing with your addictions and also sort of being comforted in the fact that you've beaten that thing, and that's how it's always come across to me anyway. Um, but again, for me, there's a Jimi Hendrix vibe with this song. There is something, I think it's in the fact that you've got the main riff, so the bass and the guitar play the main riff, but in the background, in the subdued, you've got an acoustic guitar playing the chords, and that to me is there's something about the chords. I think it's what is it? I think it's A, G, and then C that's played. I think I'd have to play it on a guitar, but those chords being played in the background really add to that kind of warmth, sort of 70s almost feel. And I also feel that this song is leads into Purple Stain, song number 13, really, really well. Like there's something again very nostalgic, very, very fantastical about Purple Stain. I think it's very, very well done and well crafted sort of segue into this song. I think it's it becomes very apparent that the album is winding down though for me with this song in particular, and I know it is. But then it kind of picks up again with Right on Time, which I love this song. The bass line is so hard to play. It's so simple. It's just octaves in the chorus when he's saying it's right on time, it's right on time, da-dun, 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 da-dun. But then Flea just is doubling up on all of that, and because Flea can use all four of his playing, like his picking fingers, whereas I've only ever been able to use two. So he can play like two strings concurrently very, very quickly. Whereas for me, it would be, trying to do double the work in the same amount of time. It's impossible. But I do like Anthony Kiedis here. He's in his zone. He's in his bag right here when he's shouting on top. All I need, I got. Oh no, is it this one? Yeah, on top. All I need, I got rhythm when I bleed. This is going from pure memory, by the way. And I do like the way that he's sort of like barking at you, that kind of Kiedis thing, that kind of Kiedis fire. And I do think that this is one of the last times that you really, really hear it for them. But, people can disagree with me all they want. I will happily revisit any Chili's material. And then the last song on this album is Road Trippin', which I think is, it is a good song. But it never grabbed me in the way that Scar Tissue did. I guess it's a different Road Tripping's a totally different feel, and I always found it a bit of a, I don't know. Initially, I found it a nice way to end the album, but as I've listened to it this time, I feel that I wouldn't have ended on this. I wouldn't have ended with this song at all. I would have made it a bonus. Maybe it was a bonus. I can't remember, but I would have made right on time the last song because it's just punchy and the way it ends, it's like bam 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 bam, and that's it. What a great way to end the album, But hey, it is what it is. This is something that I've wanted to talk about this album for absolutely ages. We started this podcast back in January, and yeah, we're towards the end of the year now of 2021, and this is one album that I thought I don't know if KD's gonna like it. I do. Maybe we will do an exchange on this in the future. Like, I don't think he'll have listened to it. I really do think that the Chili's, though, like as I said at the top, really do think that this album is. I think it's one of their best in their plethora, in their pantheon of albums. I really, really do. This is top of the tree. I mean, maybe second only to Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I can never tell. I can never really tell which one's better. Maybe I'll lean towards this one because, again, the production is great. The separation between the instruments is fantastic. And when they want to add another layer of guitar or vocals or whatever, it's done so really, really well because the raw ingredients are the drums, the bass, the guitar, and the vocals. And it's a very, very lovely, balanced band that they have there, the producers, I mean. And to be able to add like little elements to just tweak things or make things sharper or just to add more impact, I think this album is absolutely masterful in how it executes that. this, I mean, upon listening to it again, it's gotten better. I don't think it sounds like an old album at all. It's 22 years old. Like, I can't believe it. It doesn't feel old at all, but that might be because maybe I'm still perennially a youngster. Maybe I still feel like that. But it was such an influential song at the time because it was an influential record at the time because I don't know, I just remember seeing the video before I was going out I was 15 and I think I was doing like a youth theatre project thing for a couple of weeks, and one morning I was around my mate's house before this, and then Californication was on and it was sunny outside, and it ended up being like some of the best days, of my teenage years, and it was just it has a particularly warm and fond place in my heart. So it's been an absolute pleasure to cover this. It's been very, very cool. One thing I will say is I will switch up the format of how I do this, but some albums will require it and some albums won't. And I know that I did Slipknot last time, and I'm already sort of regretting the way that I did it. I did it track by track, which I think I could have hammered home better parts if I'd done it in a sort of non sequitur review. But hey, that is for me. I'm kind of spitballing out here. I've basically done this straight, like in one, which is, I think, pretty good, don't you? But with this album, the way that I've reviewed it, I think deserves to be track by track because it is fantastic. I mean, 14 songs. I think they could have cut 2 or 3 out, but that's just me. What am I like? Top 5 tracks. Ooh, top 5 tracks. Well, Around the World, easy. Around the World, Get on Top, Californication, Emmett Ramus, or Summertime, and This Velvet Glove. Special mention to Right on Time because I love that song. Yeah, man, that is it. The review is done, and my score for this album, upon listening, I thought it'd go down a bit, but I will give this a solid 8 out of 10. It's not quite classic territory. I don't enjoy it as much as I used to, but it is a fantastic listen still. I would have given this a 9.5 back in the day, easy, because there was nothing like it. Only the Chili's could make this album. But yeah, solid 8 for me because I'm a heartless, jaded, old fool. But anyway, if you stuck with me for this long, I've loved doing this. Hit me on the socials, man. Hit us on the socials. Give us suggestions of albums that you'd like covered if we've heard them. And like honestly, blessings to you. Honestly, as I always say, I hope you and your family are doing real well. Like, I hope you're well within yourselves, and if you're not, by all means, holler. Like, get in the DMs and stuff, and like you don't have to be alone if you are feeling alone. All right, and we're all we've got. So I hope you enjoy this, and in any way, shape, or form, I hope everything is goes well for you real soon. Much love, and peace.